There was the
hot dog flavored protein.
The hot dog smell was by Hannaford because there's a hot dog stand.
Well, good thing because hot dog was the top flavor for the hydration bowl. So.
Hot dog water.
Hot dog hydration.
I did not fill that sheet out, but if it's hot dog water, then we're good.
Good morning, Misfits. You are tuning into another episode of the Misfit Podcast. Full Goon Squad in the house. There aren't many honorary members of the Goon Squad. And I would say there aren't many honorary women of the Goon Squad for sure. But today we have one here.
Honorariest.
Most honorary.
Caroline Connors, welcome to the podcast.
Thanks.
Really important housekeeping at the beginning here. It is officially hot dog season in Maine.
In case you're wondering, it is hot dog season.
We determined that. Had a good hot dog conversation. What color is it? Is it stuffed with anything? Yeah, there's red hot dogs in Maine.
That's
only kind of the only kind of hot dog there is.
No, it really is a Maine thing. Yeah,
it's delicious.
And it's basically a pink balloon, and I'm not kidding. I'm not even close to kidding. A pink balloon that they put hot dogs into.
It's delicious.
Like, as an adult, once you realize what it is,
it dyed?
It gets weird. Yeah, so the casing.
That's what the nutrition is.
The casing is thicker. That's why they call them red snappers.
Snap.
But some of them have the tied ends on them.
It's a favorite part to nibble.
Yeah.
And when I was a kid, I would make my mom take the hot dog out of the casing once it was cooked because I thought it was so disgusting. It's like de-skinned.
I did not know. I didn't know that was like a main. I didn't know that was a main
thing.
Hot dog.
Yeah.
The carrot peeler. Mom's sitting over his plate, peeling red hot dogs.
Peeling the hot dog.
So wait, would you
Is this a peeled hot dog?
like the taste of the red hot dog inside more than a normal hot dog without the red?
No, I don't think so. I think it was just because it was like summer in Maine and people were eating hot dogs and whatever.
Do you think anyone reskins their hot dog?
What?
Like they might just get the hot dog parts and then make their own hot dogs at
How many
home?
people do you think are assuming these are all euphemisms? We are literally talking about
Actual
hot dogs.
Ballpark Franks.
encased ballpark.
Before we get off this topic, favorite type of hot dog? Everybody's got to go.
What do you mean favorite type? Like toppings?
I don't know. Can anybody else handle this
Help 'em.
question?
Chicago dog. Like a little bit of white onions, some green relish, a lot of mustard.
Yeah.
Big fan.
Yeah, I would also say a Chicago dog. I'm not a mustard guy though, but like
That is a shame.
the ketchup. Is ketchup's like a sin for a lot of people on a hot dog, isn't it?
No.
Like a bad thing?
No,
think that's
ketchup
the number
is
one
for hot
condiment.
dogs.
Yeah.
There,
For sure.
You're only
dogs are
supposed to put
literally
ketchup on French
The
fries and
hot
hot
dog
dogs,
on
and if
the
you put it on
package.
anything
Mac and
else, you have
cheese.
to leave. Oh, what the fuck? What are you, 7?
ketchup,
Peeling hot dogs over here.
I was 7.
white onion on like a poppy seed bun. Like a hot dog.
What? There's
Yeah.
a poppy seed hot dog bun?
I used to do them at Chicago Dogs.
What is
fucking
Chicago
love-
dogs?
It was a hot dog place around here that like
We should open a
moved
franchise.
around a couple times, and now I don't know where it's at, if it exists anymore.
Jeez, everybody's got fancy hot. I don't
Oh,
really
hold on.
eat-
I'll go if you don't want to hear about. I get a 6-pack of.
My preferred hot dog is 6 of them.
I get a 6-pack. If I'm up at camp, I get an 8-pack. But at home, I get a 6-pack of what's the name of the hippie meat company? Applegate. Yes,
Oh, yeah,
Applegate Farms. I don't know why,
No,
but
Nathan's.
nope. Well,
Nathan's?
those are amazing.
Yeah, those are good.
The natural is better than the organic. I don't know why. I get the natural. I cook them in
natural.
butter,
You don't like
and then
your
I
hot
have
dogs
a
grass-fed?
I have a mountain. No, they're both grass fed.
Grass-fed
A
hot dog.
mountain of
Wild hot dog.
God, I can't
Free
think.
range hot dog.
Hey,
sorry.
excuse me. I'm being heckled while I'm talking about hot dogs. This is
No
a very
fucking
important.
shit. We get it.
This is a very
You eat between 6 and 8 hot dogs at a
a
time.
mountain of Sir Kensingtons on my plate, and I just pick them up with my hand. I hide far enough that Maya
You wear a
can't see
pocket
me,
tee and put it in a
so I don't
pocket?
have to.
What else
don't have to
is-
use a fork.
What else is on your hot dog? Just ketchup?
Butter and ketchup.
Butter dogs.
I just cook them in butter because I'm cooking them in a pan.
Oh.
Yeah.
You ever bitten your finger on accident?
Do you
Yes.
do
More than
gluten-free?
once.
Do you do gluten-free bun?
He says he uses hands to pick them up.
Yeah.
Of course not.
That's why I can't use plastic
Yeah,
silverware.
you know I can't fit a bun in these hands.
Yeah.
He's got a special adapter.
Caroline, what's your favorite hot dog?
It's getting worse.
Well, I'm not a big hot dog girl.
Shame.
Believe it or not.
Shame.
I don't know. I mean, if I were to eat a hot dog, I would either grill it or my dad used to make it just like in a pan with butter. And that makes the outside way better than good old pull it out of the fridge and
Tell
stuff
you what,
it in
though,
your mouth.
I ate a lot of cold hot dogs
I
as a
have
child.
seen
A lot.
I saw Ted eat a frozen hot dog.
Yeah.
It,
Ted did not like it.
it was gross. I didn't eat it, and it was
What
gross.
is
It was
what
gross.
is the what is the texture when you break into a frozen hot dog?
It was
just disintegrate.
It's like liver.
Yeah,
Oh
they
my
were, it
God.
was the
Meat
worst. It was
sand.
the worst. It was left. They were left over from like the year before's.
Summer
Like
They were
Throw it
in the
out.
freezer. That's
like
called
Murph. They were in
preservation.
the.
And then when he
they were in the
set it down, you could see
freezer.
the teeth marks.
Yeah, and Ted just pulled the frozen dog out and fucking crunched that bitch. Not.
Wouldn't know. Let's try it.
Yeah, that's true. Fair enough.
Okay, this is a CrossFit and
Thanks for
hot dog
watching.
podcast. See you next time. Thank you for tuning in to another episode of the Misfit Podcast.
Misfit hot dog.
We are currently in week 2
Chia.
of Comp Block 2.
Yup.
A lot of athletes are prepping for semifinals, and then some athletes named Caroline and Austin full week last week, and then we don't go until week 4. But that's a good thing, right? 3 weeks past your wedding.
Yep.
It's ideal to not have it be during your wedding or after or right after.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. I mean, I was fine with it either way, but it is nice to have more time. Plus now Hunter gets more time to prep for his semifinal prep adventure.
Yep, that's true.
Yes.
Give him another
Lucky
week
you.
of deload, and then it's
Yep.
time for him to
Yeah,
help
well, I got to
in.
go on vacation for a week. So week 1 is
That's how you deload
Yeah,
correctly.
week 1 is is surf.
As usual, the community is crushing it in the Discord. Conversations are about math paces and bitch work and this Metcon and how did I break this up. And no one really cares too much about what your percentages were on your lifts. And that's, I think, a huge community shift. And if you're listening to this and are wondering what the heck we're talking about, you can head to discord.gg/Misfit Athletics to join our community. And I think there's a lot of people out there that want to talk about CrossFit all day, and specifically within the Misfit community, talk about the programming that we do and what they're doing. And that's what happens on the Discords. It's a cool spot. For
Another
sure.
thing that's really encouraging too, I've been watching the reposts on our channel for the clean complex and the snatch skill complex, seeing people actually focus on moving well around the barbell, as opposed to, again, you're saying like load up the percentages and, brag about who has the biggest clean complex or snatch complex. And I, again, want to remind all of you, you've heard us say it a million times, but you get better in like the 60 to 80% range, not just maxing that lift out. So to see people kind of really double down on getting better right now when they have this many weeks ahead of their semifinal, or if they're not doing a semifinal, getting a head start on next season is huge, because that's what's going to create the adaptation to get better at this lift. You talk about like skill, unlocking your strength. This is a great demonstration of that. The better you get at this complex of moving around that barbell, the more you're going to lift when phase 1 comes back around after the season's ending.
Yeah, it was really cool to see people not go too heavy on that complex, because the whole point of going through each and every position when you're doing skill work is giving yourself a point of reference. Like, this is exactly how I want to move once the bar gets here. This is the place that I want to go to. And we saw a lot of really good videos on Instagram of people actually going through those positions. And that's why, even if you are going heavy, we recommend some sort of warm up like that to, again, set the tone for, this is the part of the lift where I do this, or I'm supposed to be here. So it was good to see people work through that and not just see it as like, typically when someone sees a complex, they
How heavy can I go?
get riled up and see if they can bounce the barbell off their thighs and all that.
Hunter
good
does that a
stuff.
lot. He loves to bounce the barbell.
Fuck. If it's anything more than an empty barbell,
Ain't bouncing.
That ain't bouncing. I'm not fucking bouncing.
Your arms are too long.
They are.
Bounce him off his
I know,
kneecap.
you'd hit your knees.
I know.
That'd be
I
terrible.
hit my knees when I clean like normal. Fuck. You want me to bounce the bar off my kneecaps?
Build some kneecap resiliency.
I need some kneecap resiliency.
What was your favorite piece last week? Or one that was
Yesterday.
like,
A few minutes ago.
Oh God, I forget. I have to go back and look at my programming.
I can think of one. One that you and I did in Wyndham.
Oh yeah. You tell them what your variation was of that. I made that very different for you guys.
Yeah, that one was okay. So that was a good one, and then I'll talk about that. But then let me go back to the chipper. That's the one.
Ooh,
I think. Yeah.
Yeah.
So we had 3 minute, 2 minute, 1 minute AMRAPs of. Did it start with the double unders?
Yeah.
24 Zeus rope. No, rogue, heavy rogue rope double unders, and then 8 dumbbell thrusters.
Wheelhouse for me is great.
35s, yeah. So
instead of the burpee box
Instead of the burpee box
yeah,
jump overs,
yeah,
yes.
Which, it was really hard for
Accurate.
such a short amount of time. Like you get through the first round, it's like okay, and then you pick up you finish your set of dumbbells, and then you walk back over to the rope, and as soon as you start, it's like, oh god, and then it's just
that rogue rope's no joke though. Either heavy handles and heavy cable.
Not at all. And that was actually the first time. I mean, I haven't used it that much, maybe like 5 times total, but that was one of the first times that I felt my grip just completely go versus like having to stop because my shoulders were on fire.
Yeah.
Which, I mean, I guess it makes sense. The thrusters don't take that long. I think there probably should have been maybe like, I don't know, 24 thrusters instead of double unders.
What?
24 and 8.
Heavy double unders, 24 thrusters.
But just going back from that set to a quick set of the thrusters and right back to the rope, just fried.
It was right on the line for me, like what I was going to put in for a rep scheme there. And I happened to be walking on the treadmill before you were going to go that day and was like, go grab your rope and show me 24. And I was looking at the clock and I was like, this is a 6-minute workout. Like, I think this is right to make it the emphasis of the workout. Mm-hmm. Like, if it was a 20-minute AMRAP, it would have been the dumbest rep scheme of all time. But
2
we were
and 8.
Yeah, we were right on that line, and it was probably too many for you, right?
Yeah, it was too many for me, but the is unique because you can get that gas stimulus like almost instantaneously. Like Caroline was saying, you do the double unders, you feel pretty good. I think both of us did fine the first set. I think both went unbroken. Then you do your dumbbell thrusters, which is something that's not good for me, and then immediately went to pick the jump rope up. I think I did 2 double unders.
A beefy set.
2 heavy rope double unders.
The old beefy set.
Yeah, so the rest of that workout, I would agree. I probably shouldn't have done it, but I was catching myself standing around too much, so I made intentional breaks to try to stay moving, and it still just ended up being...
Is it a heavy rope or a regular one?
I used not the heaviest one from Mark Smart Gear, the one down from it. Drew told me to use the Kronos one, but it's like a bike cable, and I couldn't even do like a single with it. So
that's the one that you used. The other one.
Isn't Red Hades? Isn't that the one I used? I think.
I don't know.
I think I used one down because the heaviest one I just couldn't do it with. So, it's fucked up workout when the thrusters are the easy movement in there, for me at least. But no, it was right on the mark for gas tank stimulus, and something that I typically struggle with when it comes down to doing thrusters and jump rope. If it's gas tank related, usually doesn't go well. So good one to train. And it was the task of trying to stay less than 1 round behind Caroline, which I failed on by the end.
You were really close. And then you picked up your jump rope and I think tripped on 3. Yeah.
Yeah, beefy
another
set too.
double.
Yeah.
Double under. What else you get?
Yeah, that's what I was supposed to
I heard you trip, and then I was like, okay, well, it's okay. You can still pick it up.
Silence.
Silence.
No, we were so perfectly in sync, she couldn't hear my rope.
Yeah.
That was what it was. We were just perfectly in sync.
Yep.
All she heard was her rope.
Yeah.
And then the other one was the chipper.
Yeah. I think that was probably my favorite piece because it was really hard, like movement-wise for me. There was a lot of different pieces where thrown into a Metcon, I would either wait a second before picking up dumbbells for lunges or wait a second before jumping up onto the rings. And it was I think the reset was placed perfectly to where there were moments where it was like you go from one movement to the weaker movement or whatever movement I'm trying to focus on. And then the break just before, like the other sets too.
Did it end with the wall walks?
Yeah. Those were bad. That was bad.
Did you say you almost failed the wall walk at
I
the end of
almost
this?
failed my last one. My hand stopped moving.
We were, I know, so for everyone listening, this is the chipper from week 1 that ended with the wall walks, ended the muscle ups, began with a run into the lunges. What we are attempting to do with these, and I think we might have talked about this in the podcast, maybe not, is running interference with these chippers on movements within them. because what's fun about a chipper in competition is your ability to go pretty hard and then just sort of reset and do something different afterwards. So you sort of feel like you have that same amount of energy as you go into the next movement. I don't care for that in training as much, but I like the idea of using that style as sort of half of the workout, whereas the other half is trying to run interference on itself, because I want athletes to know if I have to do muscle ups and wall walks, if I have to do 2 different styles of handstand push-ups, if I have to do strict handstand push-ups and handstand walks. We've talked about that before. That's a whole weird sort of feeling that I had never had before until an affiliate class a couple of months ago. So we're essentially trying to run interference within this so that no matter what, when you go in and you do a chipper, you feel like you know what that's like in competition. But then probably more importantly, if you have those 2 movements paired together during competition, you know what it's like. You can go in and sort of strategize for what's, the right set, what's the right, sort of strategy when you're
It's
going
like the
into
difference
it.
between testing and training there, though. Like the test would be the expression of your fitness, having worked through some of these different types of chippers where you are thrown the curveball, like, hey, you got to walk 150 feet on your hands and kick up and do 30 deficit handstand push-ups. Whereas in training, like, we are okay with you getting stuck a bit, because part of the learning that needs to happen there is figuring out what is the absolute best strategy. Because you had to go double dumbbell snatch for like half of the amount, then rest, then double amount, and then the first set of muscle ups, right? Is that how that went?
Yep.
Yeah, so we want an athlete to know if you do a super gassy movement like a double dumbbell snatch, which obviously is grip related, full body related, then can you hop up on the rings and get a big set of muscle ups done, knowing that there's a little carrot dangling at the end of the stick there, because you get that, I think it was a minute or a minute and a half rest coming up. And again, that is a good thing in training. So like when you're looking at these pieces and you're looking at yourself and going, I might get stuck a bit here, just make sure you refer back to the stimulus in the in your programming there to make sure that, like, if you see gas or muscular overload, know that there's going to be parts where you get stuck, and not to overcorrect and scale that so far back so that you don't get stuck, because some of the things that's trying to happen in some of these chippers are intentional interference where you are supposed to get stuck but not get stuck long because you have a good strategy kind of going into it, as opposed to the cardio stimulus so you can just keep moving.
Right. And if we're at a competition, last year was the CrossFit Games, but it could be the Open. It could be, obviously the Open last year with the wall walks. That was something where we felt like if community wide, there's a hole, like across the entire CrossFit community, if we hunker down on that, then that can be a place where a Misfit athlete can leap ahead of the competition when they're actually competing. And then we watched last year with the muscle ups and bar muscle ups at the CrossFit Games with those super long straps and having to do the sled and the pig flip and everything like that. Like, people who were really good at gymnastics struggled a lot with those gymnastics in that workout. So to me, I'm like, okay, if this is across the board, then we need to get athletes into these scenarios so they know exactly what to do in competition and can beat somebody just based on strategy and, let alone capacity.
Yeah, that's a huge component of testing your fitness, is knowing when and where you can push and when and where you need to back off so that you don't blow yourself up. Again, I think the muscle up one's a great example of that, and you'll get a fair dose of those through Comp Block 2 and Comp Block 3.
Chippers
Indeed.
give you that unique ability to be, just because of the nature of the workout. Usually it's like a bigger set of a movement than you would see in kind of a traditional Metcon, and that puts athletes in a scenario where it's like, I don't know how the fuck I'm going to break this up. It's like, I've done 30 muscle ups for time before, but when it's at the, at the peak of the chipper, how do I fare? And then what happens to me on the way back down?
Right.
Not saying that was the piece, but in that example, but having the Metcon reset in a chipper, especially, I think is really good competition prep, just because of how frequently we see some sort of chipper where it's like, especially when event organizers leverage the field and like the kind of the visual display of that lends itself to kind of a chipper style workout, thinking like the handstand walk at Granite Games last year, the final event, similar kind of format where it's like going through this stuff once, but it's like a big chunk. How are you going to strategize for it? And a lot of times the athlete with the best strategy is the one who wins.
But I think that you described this really well, because you were given an affiliate class and we had a version that was, I want to say, dumbbell snatches and muscle ups, and you put on the board like the workout straight up, and then you have on the other side of the board the Metcon reset of that workout, and you said, like, compete as if you're trying to be your future self. And a big part of what the Metcon reset allows you to do is to go ahead of what would be your normal maybe pace, looking at the total body of work and saying, you know what, I just need to work really, really hard, but like not redline in this chunk so that I can get to that rest and then push again in the next chunk. So I don't know if you want to speak more to that, but I thought that was a really interesting kind of lecture you gave to our Hatchet class, talking about like being your future self in the Metcon reset.
It was more and just to get people to understand what we're doing with the Metcon reset. And it was easy because I think it was 6 total rounds. But basically it was like, hey, here's the Metcon reset. It looks really weird because there are these rest periods put in like weird spots and like movements are broken up weird. Here, I'm going to take out the rest and here's your Metcon. And people are like, oh yeah, so 5 rounds for time of these 2 movements. So it's a lot easier to digest like that. And then again, what I gave them was like, hey, you've got 6 total rounds where you're doing 3 rounds, 2 rounds, and then 1 round. Whatever your average time was for this first 3 rounds, like let's say 3 rounds took you 3 minutes, like you're looking to hold on to those 1 minute rounds for the remainder of that, of the piece. And it was just, that doesn't always apply to every single Metcon or Metcon reset, but it was again the message of like, hey, you're running at your fittest self's pace here, knowing that you've got a little bit of a reprieve coming up at strategic points in the workout.
Yeah, and the concept is born from, even at the highest levels, you're not going to go at your competition pace in training if it's a Metcon straight through. So for me, it's like, I want my athlete to have that information anyways. I want them to know what 1,400 calories per hour feels like. I want them to know what, larger sets with less rest on movements feels like. And if that only happens in competition, if you have that uptick in competition and you don't really know physiologically what's going to happen to you, then it's not good, basically. Right. So for athletes that are doing Metcon resets that aren't at that level yet, you can start to take those chances that you normally wouldn't take in training and kind of go there a little bit.
I think, yeah, and I think that's a must as we get closer into like semifinal time. Like athletes have to know. You can't, I don't know how many times I've seen or heard athletes be like, even during quarterfinals, they're just like, I had a little bit more in the tank, or I wish I had pushed it a little bit more. Like you only get 1 shot at a semifinal at a live event. So it's like you have to know what that threshold is before you go into it. Otherwise you risk leaving a lot of points on the table that could make the difference.
Yep, for sure. And we'll get into today's topic in 1 second, but thinking about this concept and the chipper, we are looking for athlete IQ and fitness level to come together. And I mean, we used to watch Fikowski win chippers by 5 minutes, like beat the best person in the world at the workout by 5 minutes, because he was like, yeah, obviously you do this many reps and then do this. And then you're pinching, he invented new ways to climb the rope and all kinds of weird stuff that he did. And that's when, like, obviously crazy high level of fitness. He's, been on the podium multiple times at the CrossFit Games. But also the athlete IQ and the strategy. That is not some like he's a mad scientist and, is cooking up all of these things. And maybe to be the frontiersman in it, he had to be. But every other athlete has the opportunity to become that knowledgeable about the way that they move, sets, reps, paces, all that stuff. He just started doing it before other people did.
I mean, you can maybe potentially make the argument that's what allowed him to be on the podium. Maybe he's more of somewhere in the 5 to 15 range, but because he thinks about workouts and takes the strategic part and the IQ part so seriously, he's able to elevate his fitness. So like, I think the big lesson from him is just, hey, if you're someone that feels like you don't have a firm grasp on how you can break things up or what weights will feel like or what paces will feel like, but you're doing all the other things you think correctly, you're sleeping enough, you're training enough, you're eating enough, and you're just not making the gains that you want, maybe you're not spending enough time in that realm of your fitness to take the time to, journal things down and work through them in your mind instead of being like a goldfish. You do the workout and then what's next? It could be a big game changer for a lot of athletes. Like even athletes that remote coach, have that conversation, maybe not daily, but often weekly, about paces and whatnot. And it's always back to be a learning moment. It's like, hey, let's look back a couple of weeks. I bet we can find the answer to this question. And then that gets the gears turning. So if you're not someone that does that, this is another like PSA for you. Please start doing that because you're going to elevate your fitness a ton.
Yeah, I mean, the best athletes in the world didn't like sit there and wish upon a star that their genetics were going to change instead of figuring out how to fucking do a workout the way that you're supposed to and get fit. All right. Today's topic is the Misfit Project Revisited. And this, our guest for this podcast and the idea for this podcast came from people reaching out to me and being like, I listened to this old episode. When's it coming back? When's it coming back? And the easiest way to answer that is to frame it the way that I would like to today. As we go around the circle here, I joked with Caroline earlier, my goal is to live to be 100 years old, and her goal is to be a professional athlete. And you guys are probably somewhere in between those two things. So we have a pretty good spectrum here just in terms of what all of these topics mean to us. And I think it will be helpful. And there are some things I think that we might have updated our thinking on that we can talk about a little bit. But basically going through some of the old stuff and adding personal anecdotes to how you personally think about it, whether it's from the coaching point of view. You know, Sherb has a really great conversation with his beginners about what fitness is and what fitness means to other people. So there's sort of that aspect. We're all coaches. And then there's obviously the personal aspects of things that we've put into our lives, things that we've changed, all that good stuff. You guys can tell me if this gets boring, but I thought Hunter's like, oh, I will. Don't you worry.
Don't worry.
Don't you worry.
He's told me to shut the fuck up already.
This fucking sucks.
I am going to read the original paragraphs written about the Misfit Project, and then we'll go from there.
Where did you find this? Misfitproject.net?
Don't worry about it.
Is it a .net?
It could be anywhere. All right. So this is the overarching. This is the overarching theme that was originally written. At the Misfit Project, our number one goal is the creation of a community of like-minded individuals interested in the overall health and well-being of themselves and each other. Too often we see men and women desperate to improve their lifestyle and those of others only to be mocked and shamed until the battle of sticking up for their changes becomes even harder than the changes themselves. Through both social media-based interaction and in-person connections, we aim to create the kind of community that supports anyone and everyone in the pursuit of improving any part of their life. Being able to consistently look to your left and to your right for support in your journey can be the tipping point to an entire new level of well-being. By prioritizing community and positivity over a specific set of rules, it is our goal to create a hub for unbiased information that helps people. Are you bored?
No, that's great.
All right.
Did you hear all the words that he said?
Yeah.
What?
Could repeat them.
Most of them.
So we're revisiting overarching themes, and just off the top of your head, what is that? Like, what connections are you drawing to that?
Well, it's funny when this first started, it was basically you, me, and Ted next door at the old studio talking about a little bit here and there. And one of the things that I thought was going to be the most important part was building the community. But like, how do you create a community out of like thin air? We have our like fitness, club over here, Misfit Athletics. How does that branch from there to like more of the, what I thought was originally health and wellness? Like the goal is to live to 100, not to necessarily be a professional athlete. And the one thing that I see as the common bond between them is just the idea of being vulnerable enough to put out, rowing splits, and I'm going to go run on Sunday, or come do this, come do that with me. And, things that previously I might've thought were a little like boring, maybe so to speak, when it comes to like the Instagramification of the world, and like, check out my 1 rep max snatch, or I did Fran in 10 seconds. Like that felt so separate from like what the Misfit Project was. But as the community kind of adopts the Zone 2 lifestyle and a lot of the Maffetone and some of these other things that, you just started sprinkling in and I started following along with. And now there's a Sunday Miles Club of, I don't even know how many people now. You get tagged every Sunday between like, 5 and 6 different people all posting the full list. So to me, the thing that connects these two ideas, this like Misfit Athletics tribe to the Misfit Project tribe, is just this vulnerability and this willingness to like, just connect with one another. And I didn't know if that connection was ever going to be made. And thankfully it is, because I do think that we have a lot more to offer people than just here's how you get better at this competitive sport of CrossFit. So to me, that's the thing that's taken a while for it to kind of manifest, but now I can really see the connection between, what we do with Misfit Athletics and what the Misfit Project was intending to be originally.
I think there's a lot of value in the long game that a lot of people, and I would say including myself, but as like when that was probably written, my goals were probably a little bit different. But I think I would say more so within like the local community that we have here and at the gym, we've done a really good job kind of turning folks on to the idea that we're kind of in it for the long haul as far as like progress goes. And what that means is that you have to be willing and okay with taking a hit in certain aspects of your fitness. Like that's the easiest thing for folks to
the sports side,
or even just performance in the gym. Like my numbers on the whiteboard, like, oh, so-and-so has been beating me for the past month. Like I'm losing all my fitness, that sort of thing. And it's kind of funny, like as somebody who previously would put maybe a little bit more stock in that, you're able to now step back, take a look at kind of the big picture and be like, we're still like that trend line is still going upward. Like it might be slower than normal, or maybe we're even trending down if we zoom in on kind of that really high resolution image of that little graph, but we're still overall, comparatively, we're all trending in the right direction. And I think a lot of folks have kind of turned to that idea that it's like, oh, it's okay, it's not going to happen. I'm not going to make all the progress that I want this month or this training phase. Like this is a long iterative process that has a whole lot of variables that most of which are outside of the gym, again, kind of thinking specifically about like Misfit Gym Portland and that community, because there are a lot of people who have goals, and especially post quarterfinals, you get the influx of people who all of a sudden, it's like, I'm going to hammer myself. Like I'm on the team next year, or I'm going to make it to quarterfinals, or I'm going to do better next year. And it's like they hammer themselves for a month and then it wanes back off. So there's an element of like goal setting and kind of like honest assessment of what you want, and making sure that people aren't just kind of following the shiny object, so to speak. Cause, and we're all social creatures in that if one member of the group decides that, wow, I really want to do this I really want to be on the team, or I really want to compete, and other folks are just like, like not so much. And then that person starts to get successful, and there's like the FOMO aspect. And it's a very interesting dynamic for people to experience and to watch. So I think, and that has resulted in overall a more positive kind of, hey, let's like think about the things that you need to work on, realize that there is a lot of value in pursuing something that takes a long time to achieve and to accomplish, and that you might not see the results next week, next month, or maybe even in 6 months, but like you never know how close you are to that tipping point unless you kind of just keep plugging along.
Well, it's cool too. You see the difference between the like way back.
You gonna let our guest talk, young man?
Maybe.
That's okay. Go ahead.
I'm sorry. You ready to go?
You two just keep having your
All right,
conversation. Look in the eyes.
It's really neat to see the fact that, years ago, if someone was trying to be this competitive athlete, it's like, shut the fuck up. Go sit in the corner. Go do your thrusters over there. Like, and there wasn't like the supportive aspect that our gym now has for like everybody, regardless of their endeavor. One of the things I always thought was really cool with one of our friends named Catherine Lewis, she had this shirt that said, it's really cool to give a shit. And like, I love that our gym has that like give a shit factor in so many different facets of life. We have people who are trying to lose, 100 pounds, and people who are trying to go to the CrossFit Games. And the fact that like our gym has now become what I would say mature enough to kind of support all of these endeavors. It makes me proud to be able to tell a beginner when they come to our gym, like, guess what? Like, regardless of what your goals are, if you stick with this stuff, you are going to better experience your life. And if you can be patient and kind of do one step at a time as opposed to going full speed run, like you are going to see success with this program. And I'm like fully invested in that from the top down in our business. Every single person that works for Misfit Gym Portland, Misfit Athletics is in that mindset of like, we are trying to accomplish something big and we're not going to get there instantaneously. But if you stick to the plan, you will get there over time. And again, it's just a cool thing to have that large spectrum of like, someone who you would never expect to see in a CrossFit gym all the way to CrossFit Games athlete.
Yeah, I think it's been really cool to see the transformation in like our affiliate specifically. Kind of like the original concepts of the Misfit Project are now like what I would consider the norm for our community and our gym. And you know, when I first joined, when we were on Warren Avenue, it was, you know, a clubhouse vibe. Like you walk in and everybody
needed a flashlight to get plates.
Everybody that was going in there was like going hard. It was a little more intimidating. Like it seemed like everybody was competing, not with each other, but like wanted, you know, had the goals and aspirations to compete at the regional level or whatever. And now like we've kind of morphed into this place where you see people of all abilities, all ages come in, and they get that like huge amount of support from everybody and from each other. And it's very obvious that there's not as much, it's not as intimidating as like walking into a CrossFit gym, in my opinion, used to be. And, you know, people can join beginners and go through a couple months before they even hear or like understand, like, what the fuck is the open? What does that mean? What are these people talking about? So it's not like that, like the sport and the competitive vibe is not thrown at everybody immediately when they come into the gym. And it's more that we've put a lot of emphasis on why are you here? Like, is it to, you know, become fitter because you went for a walk the other day and had to stop after 10 seconds? Like, a lot of people come in and they're like, well, I just had a grandkid and like, I want to be able to play with them. And like that type of thing that people come in with is like so amazing. And we have so many people that are like, you know, asking the new members, why are you joining? And like the fact that people actually give a shit about why other people are coming into the gym, I think makes, you know, all those little concepts of tribe and community like so much better here, because people actually care about each other. They're not like going against each other. And I think we've done a really good job at kind of, you know, being role models, I guess, for that, for all the members that come in. So it's been cool to see the difference in the two. I mean, how long has it been? Since 11 years?
Yeah, I'm going 11 years.
Going on 11 years.
Yeah. The gym opened in my garage in 2010, so 12 years.
Wow.
Yep.
It's a few years.
Yeah, I mean, for me, that sort of opening thing now just goes so much to, and this is actually the next topic as well, but we aren't programmed to go it alone even in just an everyday life. We won't get the hormonal responses that our bodies are used to if we're isolated. So the idea that we are trying to make these profound changes in our lives and trying to go it alone is like twice as bad. And it makes sense for a lot of people when they're thinking about it internally, because making a change in your life is very personal, whether it's your fitness, your mental health, you know, whatever it is. Doing something like that feels very personal to you. So you feel like you have to figure it out on your own and go it alone. But again, that's just not the way that we're wired. So to be able to lean on the community and see how people do that at every single level is so cool. Like seeing the beginners come back into class together because they've started to communicate outside of the gym, and like seeing one of them's wearing like the new nanos, and one of them's wearing the new Metcons, seeing that. And then also listening to Austin pick out the different people that he finds out he wants this person's lifting score. He wants this person's rowing score. Like you're talking about, like, that's as far across the spectrum as you can possibly get. And one of them is in person and is real and is there. And then one of them is just searching for that connection through any means necessary, which I think is starting to happen again really well in the Discord channel. But it's powerful and can be used at any level by any means necessary.
I would tell most of the beginners that come to the door that a lot of you come in here with like physical goals. You come in here with the idea of like, I want to be able to lift this weight, play with grandkids. These are all physical endeavors. And we're right next door. Our second gym's over in Wyndham, but right next door to Planet Fitness. We are literally neighbors side by side. And when someone comes in, you know, one of the conversations I like to have is like, you could do everything that we do in this gym next door for 1/16th of the price. But the reason you won't do that, and the reason why I want to show you why this place is different and special, is that you're going to come here with some sort of physical goal of, you know, losing weight, getting stronger. And that's not going to be what brings you back. What brings you back is the people you work out with every single day, and the people who you are around, and the people who support you. Because like you said a minute ago, you think it's a very personal endeavor until you have that one day where you're like, you know what? Fuck this. I'll just go home and buy a pint of Ben & Jerry's, sit on the couch and watch movies the rest of the evening. And then you get that text message from somebody and they're like, where the fuck were you? It was deadlift day. How could you miss a deadlift day? And that person doesn't skip the next deadlift day. They don't skip the next day at the gym because they had that community outreach. So the tribe thing is absolutely what I think separates a CrossFit gym, especially our CrossFit gyms, from other ones that are in the area that could be very, very good and effective workout programs. Like they do exist outside of CrossFit gyms. But what does not exist, in my experience, is the community aspect that brings you back, that it creates the bonds that keep you wanting to come back to go see your friends, as opposed to like, well, fuck, I guess my day ended 40 minutes ago and my gym shorts are in my bag. I better grab that thing and like, you know, walk over to the treadmills and then do some of these like bicep, tricep fly bullshits. Like I'm going to do a couple
bicep,
of these.
tricep flies.
Yeah.
I like it.
But like the idea here is that because there's a community behind you, you're incentivized to go back. And that's what really creates the opportunity for long-term change, because none of these things that people accomplish happen in one single session. They happen over time.
All right, Misfits, just a quick break to shout out our show sponsors and hopefully save you a little bit of money. As the weather starts to get warmer and warmer, your hydration is going to become more and more of a serious thing, especially for us people that don't get to sweat until this time of year up in Maine. What is great about proper pre and proper recovery is that we know based on science that if you work out for an hour, you drink a liter of water, we want about, at a minimum dose, 500 milligrams of sodium. Pre-workout, 250 milligrams in 16 ounces of water. Proper recovery, 250 milligrams in 16 ounces of water. You have taken your pre-workout, your post-workout, and your hydration all in one by taking proper pre and proper recovery. And if you head to properfuel.co and use the code word MISFIT, you can save 10%. We are also brought to you by Sharpen the Axe. You can head to sharpentheaxeco.com very soon for the Misfit Athletics semifinals collection. The Misfit Space Invaders are headed to a semifinal near you to burn it down. And you can use the code word KEALA, KEALA, to save 10% or donate 10%. Or you can use code Carol. Guest today. Use code Carol, save 10%. She gets 10%. Similar donation situation. SharpenTheAxeCo.com Misfit Semifinals Collection.
And finally, we are brought to you by ourselves, the folks at Misfit Athletics. We are just as much kind of in that community, in the Discord channel, talking to athletes, talking to other coaches as you guys are talking to each other. So if you want to join the tightest knit competitive or non-competitive or coaching communities on the planet, you can head to misfitathletics.com. Free 2-week trial there. SugarWOD Marketplace, you can get a free 2-week trial of Misfit Athletics or the Team Misfit affiliate programming. And then, of course, make sure that you head to the Misfit Athletics Discord. That is discord.gg/Misfit. I always fuck that up. /Misfit Athletics.
Hanging out with me too much.
/Misfit Athletics. And we'd love to have you. All right, back to the show.
So the primer for this next paragraph is what you guys are all sort of leaning into right now. And I want you to add the layer of the world for the last couple of years. COVID-19, lockdown.
Say it.
Whatever.
Triggered again.
The concept of creating a modern tribal lifestyle is the glue that holds each and every step of the Misfit Project system together. The positive hormonal changes that result in positive personal relationships and finding your connection with the outdoors is remarkable. As you dig further into our suggestions, you will see the majority of them have an incredibly low barrier to entry, making them very accessible to everyone. The main reason behind that concept is to allow you and your tribe to be able to choose to make changes rather than wondering how you could ever pull them off. For years, people have intuitively felt the benefits of surrounding themselves with people they enjoy, helping others, and escaping from our urban lifestyles back to a more primitive setting. Now that you have the science to back these claims up, it becomes much easier to convince and to be convinced to put real effort into finding your tribe and making your way out into some fresh air and sunlight.
Carol, would you like to go first?
Sure. Yeah, so I mean, everything that you just kind of said, how do you do that when the world shuts down? Right? And I think us, like, we know how important those relationships are and the communication is. And so as soon as everything happened with COVID-19, like, you're reaching out to everybody that you think may need it, which is, you know, everybody. But, you know, you've got people who will, the gym is like, they come here, that's their routine. When they get out of it, like, they go to a really dark place where they, you know, aren't going to be the person to reach out to you for help, or, you know, reach out to anybody for help, for that matter. And I think because we understand the importance of that, and as far as like your mental health goes and all that, like from the very beginning, we were doing Zoom classes and checking in on everybody and making sure that we went through the list of everybody that walks into the gym that is a part of our family. And just kind of have that communication, whether it's, hey, we're going to do a virtual class today, or like, hey, I did this workout, you do it this afternoon and tell me what your score was, you know, that type of thing. Or like, I know eventually people would meet up and walk on the opposite sides of the street for a 10-minute walk just to see another human.
Almost had to call the FBI, people working out in Sherp's garage.
I was going to get there. Hold on. I was going to get there.
Nobody knows.
That's secret.
Sherb sleeping in his
Dr.
garage in a
Fauci.
cot to make sure the well-being of other people is a priority. But no, seriously, like, there was so much that happened in a period of time where you could not do anything that, I mean, I think it kept everybody afloat, right? Like
100% between the.
Hold on one second.
Oh,
sorry. I also want to know what that means to you from the context of trying to qualify for the CrossFit Games again. Like, how does that topic permeate its way into the decisions that you make to be healthier, happier, better at CrossFit?
You need to think one of us can run our sucks for a minute.
I also did not mean to turn this into a discussion of what it was like during COVID. I just meant, like, it's weird to read that and say, like, this is what we're chasing. And then the world was like, no.
Yeah.
And then everyone realized how they felt when they truly were, because before maybe people weren't expressing themselves as a human being, essentially, is how I like to talk about it. But when it was completely taken away, like,
you guys got to see it. I smashed Beat headphones in front of all of you over a Zoom call because I was fucking sick of being stuck in my
I think it
living
was
room.
definitely an eye-opening experience for a lot of people. Like,
Yeah.
you know, one of those things where you don't realize how much you need something until you can't have it.
right.
And for some people, it took a week of being stuck in their house. Some people, it took a month, or some people, it took like 24 hours. You're like,
Right.
this is not good. And like, you kind of understand how important the like human interaction is, and like getting outside and having conversations. And like for me, kind of realizing that like I took for granted some of the smaller, like small talk stuff. Because I was always like,
I almost bought a shirt the other day
Don't
that said
talk to me.
criminalize small talk.
don't talk to me. Like, I want to
Fucking
get
shut
stuff
up.
done.
That's great.
And then I think that kind of changed a lot for me, realizing like, okay, I do want to talk to people.
Yeah.
Like, maybe not every day, but you know, it sucks.
Definitely
when you
not
can't.
every day.
Talking about you, super social. Come on now.
So as far as like, as an athlete, you mean like during, or like what?
I just mean like if you were gonna go give a speech to like a kindergarten class, or it doesn't have to be a kindergarten class, could be a college class, could be a convention. You're going to give a
Carol's
speech,
convention.
and it's like you're going down through the things that we're going to talk about today, and you say, this is how I incorporate this into my lifestyle, and maybe it directly or indirectly affects you as an athlete. But just like, are there things that you do that come to mind in your daily routine that are centered around community or being outside or whatever that you think helps you as a CrossFit Games athlete?
This is a hard question for me.
What about all of your Instagram activity and your morning stuff and everything like that?
Yeah. So that going outside and like taking an hour, 2 hours to kind of have my time not centered around getting to the gym for CrossFit. It's been really beneficial to me, I think, because it's almost like a freeing moment where like I don't, obviously as a competitive athlete who was trying to be a professional competitive athlete. Hey, Castle.
Good boy.
There's really no getting around. Like your life kind of revolves around the checklist of like what you need to do.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of people disregard the fact that like part of that is getting outside, getting fresh air, getting sunlight. And it's just you wake up, you eat breakfast, you go to the gym, train, go home, eat dinner, go to bed.
Yeah.
And I think recently, I say recently, but like within the last couple of years, we've kind of talked a lot more about that, the importance of taking time outside of the gym and like not thinking about what you're going to be doing in like before I would go on the walk and be like, okay, let's go. I need to be at the gym in an hour. Like,
right.
Let's get this done so that I can get moving. And now I really enjoy having that time to myself to just kind of walk and not think about what I have to do that day. And just kind of take everything in and enjoy it. And so that's been one thing that I've been trying to do every day is go outside for a long walk and not really do much other than look.
Be present.
Yeah.
I think people have just learned the value of the things that they weren't necessary. Like all of that and kind of a lot of the recommendations that I remember kind of early Misfit Project were the things like tribe and community and sunlight and 3 10-minute walks a day and all of this stuff that that we inherently knew through like just reading and like personal experience that it's always difficult to get people to buy into something when there's not necessarily like an immediate maybe there's not the immediate feedback to it, or it's just like yeah, but I'm doing okay, like what I'm doing. It's hard to get people to change.
Yeah, there's
their
no
habits.
free lunch, but you can sell someone something with the illusion of a free lunch.
Right. Yeah, you can't or what happened is just like, hey, you don't have anything better to do, so you might as well try these things that we've been not to say like we told you so, like, but it's like, hey, these things actually do make a difference, and when you don't have access to them in the way, or when your entire routine gets kind of thrown out the window and you don't know what to do and you're not supposed to interact with people, you obviously people figured out workarounds as far as like, whether it's communicating digitally or whatever, having some sort of accountability, or doing the walks and stuff, like going outside, getting that sunlight. And I see that has continued. And I think again, kind of I'm kind of benchmarking myself with the physical gym here, is it's a pretty regular thing now where people are doing like going outside for walks, whether it's like, they get here early, they're sitting outside, like just tanning, like laying out back and just like getting sunlight, or after class, it's like, yeah, go for a 10-minute walk. And people understand that obviously it's part of the cool down, but also just the aspect of being outside, being in the fresh air, being in the sunlight, walking with other people, all of those things that seem like very minuscule, it's just like, no, this is just what I'm doing. It's like, yeah, it's what you're doing.
Why is everyone happier and feeling better?
Why is everyone like, nobody's like frowning and having like a terrible conversation about like how much they hate their lives. It's like, God, that sucked. I'll see you tomorrow. Like, it's generally positive. And I think the the global climate, while I won't say it was good for people, it gave people an idea of like, oh, what happens when I don't have these things, or maybe even more so, what happens when I do these things that previously weren't, things that weren't part of my routine, but it turns out they're actually super beneficial to my overall well-being.
Not exactly a rule follower. The second we shut down, I instantly opened up my garage to CrossFit Red Rum, and anyone who wanted to come work out could, to the chagrin of my 4-month pregnant wife, who was then working her way towards full term.
Being more than 4 months pregnant?
Garage
every
doors
day she
halfway
was more
open.
than
Just
4 months
slide
pregnant.
in and then shut it behind you.
Yeah, that's right. Just open the door, come on in. And, it was honestly tough for me at first. I fucking hated being locked down. I did not enjoy being stuck at home. Before the pandemic, wouldn't really have identified myself as an extrovert. Like, I have qualities of an extrovert, but also am totally fine being by myself for periods of time, just not days and weeks and months alone. So, the Zoom thing definitely did help. And one of the things I thought was really great, Jen and Ted organized some online, horse races where we rolled dice and put, horses across the theoretical board that was at their house, and everyone was linking up together. And there were a couple of nights we did trivia for the Wyndham crew, and, trying to create that connection that was missing from the gym, because a huge part of what we do in the gym isn't just thrusters and pull-ups. It's all the social interaction. It's the get to know each other. It's the how you tighten the community there. So, as soon as that was sort of taken away from me, I had to find a way to scratch that itch, and the Zoom classes just unfortunately weren't doing it for me personally. I was happy to provide that to our members, and I think it's something that I'm still to this day super proud of. Our gym kept 85% of our members at both locations, where most gyms were I have 1% of a membership that we had. It's just, me and my husband that are here now, that this place used to have 100 people at it. So very, very proud of that aspect. And, as quote unquote dangerous it was to have people over my house, I weighed the pros and cons there and said, I will be a happier and healthier person, even if I do potentially get sick with this virus. Because
But to clarify just real quick, you weren't inviting high risk.
No, these are people who I knew.
There was calculation.
There were people who were hey,
you were
I
also
really wanna
biking
work
out. Every photo I saw, you guys were outside. You were there were calculated risks that you were taking. You weren't you guys weren't spitting on each other.
No, maybe, I don't know. But my garage, we effectively matted out my driveway. We had my garage, and more often than not, it was probably 4 people total inside of, if you count the garage and the driveway, 600 square feet. So plenty of space for people. But the idea here was, I needed to be around my tribe, and those folks that the days that I didn't fucking want to go do it because I was stressed with just being stuck in the pandemic would call me up and be like, hey, 3 p.m. are we still on? And be like, Noelle, is it cool if my friends come over for the 48th day in a row at 3 p.m.? And she'd be like, yeah, shut the fuck up, but they can come over. And it is such a reset. One of the things you hear from the pandemic is the workday never fucking ended. It was you woke up, you started working, and then you stopped working when you decided your eyes were bleeding out of your head. You just quit at that point. But it was nice to have the couple hour reset there where I got to have that social connection. And again, you're right. I made calculated risks here. I said I would much rather be around a small select group of people who are going to help me get outside. We were outside in the sunshine, getting fresh air, and having that social connection that I otherwise was not having, and I didn't feel via remote connection there. So I know it's long-winded, but the idea here was this pandemic put a spotlight on how important that was for me, and I never realized how much it mattered to me until it was taken away. So the sort of a blessing and a curse at the same time. I learned a lot about myself through the pandemic, and found out that in order to be the optimal version of myself, I have to be outside, I have to be exercising, and I have to be around other people.
That's a good list. I like that. Yeah, I mean, I have, although the Misfit Project itself, I don't want to say stopped. I think it's being interwoven into Misfit Athletics and into the gyms. It's alive and well in that sense for sure. And I never stopped reading about all of this stuff and taking in a lot of information. It's definitely a hobby of mine. And I still, to this day, believe the number one factor in someone's overall health is their relationship with other people and the elements. I believe that beyond every other thing that we're going to talk about today, that if it's before, to me, it was more we just need to start there. And now it's even more when you read the research on lonely people die before people who smoke a pack of cigarettes a day, it's remarkable. And then you hear about the like in Japan, they do like the forest bathing for people, and like cancer risk is way down. And it's you don't have to try to figure out what mechanism there is for why walking around outside does this for a person when you think that in the entirety of human history was like the only thing we had was each other and what we could get out of being outside in the elements.
And the elements were trying to kill us.
Exactly. And it doesn't matter if it's chicken or egg, but this is what our biology is like. And we need to like really think about our personal relationships, and like you can try to hack the system as much as you want, but there isn't going to be something that's going to replace going outside for a walk on a sunny day. Like it's just not like you can get the light thing and the treadmill and you can figure out all these different things. It's not going to feel the same. We got bright ass lights over there, and I can tell you walking on the treadmill in the dead of winter when it doesn't matter what temperature it is in the gym, it feels cold as hell. You do not have the same hormones being released as when you're walking around outside with your friends. It's just not even remotely close to the same thing. So like we don't need to dig into the science. I think when you dumb it down to just like go caveman, like this feel good, this not feel good, like that sort of thing. Like that's, I think when you can really begin to understand it. All right. The next topic is sleep. And as we get into stuff that has a bit more detail to it, I want you guys to just touch on overarching and then anything that you personally do. Any sort of routine, any changes that you've made. I used to do this, now I do that sort of thing. All right. Is that the next one? Yes, it is. With the concept of a like-minded community surrounding us, we believe that the foundation of creating the happiest and healthiest version of ourselves is a commitment to great sleep. The greater understanding you have of what occurs each night during a peaceful sleep cycle, each peaceful sleep cycle you experience, the greater understanding you will have for why it is so imperative to start each day following quality rest. The analogy of comparing your health to a building, which is the logo, by the way, I don't know if that worked its way into any of this, but the logo of the Misfit Project of like the foundation and the pillars and the personalization at the top, that's what that is referencing. The analogy of comparing your health to a building insinuates that you wouldn't be able to stand without the structure in place and that the foundation must come first. Different facets of building blocks placed upon the foundation will have greater effects for each person, but the order in which they are placed is the same for all. It all starts with sleep.
No one wants to jump in? All right. I will. The sleep element to me is probably the most important thing next to, I mean, I'm sure this is probably why we're going in this order, but next to the relationships there. But the things that made the biggest difference for me sleep-wise is making sure that the end of the day is down regulation. And I think too many people try to just go like from 1,000 miles an hour to like, I'm going to take a shower and lay down. All of a sudden I'll be out like a light. So the biggest changes there for me were to spend time static stretching. I think one of the best ways for me to get into that like parasympathetic nervous system is to sit with my wife in the living room. She watches a show. I typically watch the show as well, but I'm stretching with my blue light blockers on, and that routine is anywhere from between 20 and 45 minutes an evening. And I find that I don't really struggle ever to fall asleep. So I try to convince her to join me in a lot of these stretches, and the days that she does, she's like, wow, my sleep's way better. And I was like, I got an idea why. You want to do it again tonight? The Bachelor's on. I was going to watch 3 episodes of that.
You're just explaining marriage right now, not.
Yeah. but I really do think that down regulation part is a huge element to setting yourself up to be the best version of yourself the following day. And while it might feel like less fun because you're not watching a screen or on your cell phone or doing the things that people consider normal before bed, you have to decide for yourself, like, what's more important? Do I want to feel good the entire next day, or do I want to stay up for another hour and watch whatever show?
Better Call Saul.
Yeah. That's what I'm watching right now. And I haven't seen season 5 yet, so that's where I'm at right now. Catching up.
Goodness. What a show.
Yeah, I'm not very good at down regulating.
Me either.
You listen to Metallica at like 9 p.m. and you're like doing the hairnado.
I've actually played Rock Band for about 3 hours.
Guitar Hero.
Yeah. No, I think I'm still getting used to a schedule at nighttime. So like 3 of the 5 weekdays I am coaching until 7:30, don't get home until 8. And then I usually still either have to eat or do something on my computer. But I do take a bath every single night.
I fucking love baths
Before
so
bed.
much. Oh my God.
Regardless of what time it is. And for me, I guess that would be like how I downregulate. It's not for as long as it probably should
So
be.
you do downregulate, but you'd like to extend it maybe a little further than
So that, depending on how I'm feeling, 20 to 40 minutes of bath time.
Do you ever get a text from
Zion
Austin?
too.
Because I get a text from Maya. You still in the bathtub? I'm like, yep.
No, because Austin is asleep at that point.
Oh, fair.
Finds
But
the tub the next
that for me to get to that point of like down regulation, I can't do noises. So like I can't be in the living room and have Austin in the kitchen cooking or the dogs walking around. Like, so I need fan on, water loud, like just noise. I just can't deal with any noises if I want to just kind of chill and get to that point. So bedtime for Austin and the dogs is bath time for me. So everybody's quiet.
I like that.
And I can just like that's it. As soon as I shut the door, that's my box. Nobody can talk to me.
I like it.
Any changes to sleep that I've had have actually been more based on eating. So similar to Caroline, at least 3 days, sometimes more days of the week, I don't get home until close to 8. And if I didn't, I've gotten better because I've like realized the value of making sure that I'm not going to sleep like super full. I do a better job of making sure that the whatever I defrost or whatever I'm going to prepare for dinner like is able to be done fairly quickly. And to kind of loop that around, I don't fast quite as often as I used to. Previously, I would usually go until like noon, like close to 16 hours. And it just like, it became really difficult. And I still, took affiliate class. It's not like I was training a lot, but I was training enough that, that amount of fasting wasn't necessarily benefiting me. And it also meant that, especially if I made a mistake and I didn't eat lunch, or like I forgot, or I just didn't pack enough food, that meant like dinner was way too big to be eating at like 8:30, 9 p.m. to like eat, digest, and expect to get good sleep, just, based on blood sugar levels and just digestion and body temperature and stuff like that. And like that is by far the single biggest variable for me in my quality of sleep is if I eat too much before I go to bed, like I'm not gonna sleep super well. So for me, it's a little bit more of like me eating throughout the day ensures that I'm not overeating at night, which ensures that I get good quality of sleep. Because I was doing the things like the blackout curtains, blue light blockers are kind of like hit or miss for me. But having a cold room, dark room, all those sorts of things are really helpful. But making sure that I'm not going to sleep on a super full stomach is probably the biggest one, along with probably the sugar as well. A lot of those nights where it's like
trying to cram calories in,
just eating calories. Yeah. And it's like
sugar cookie,
all I can picture is
sugar
Hunter
cookie.
passed out in his bed with like a giant turkey leg.
Never eaten in bed.
Just
Never
ribs.
eaten in bed, but I have passed out on the couch with food in my lap before. But yeah, that's the biggest thing for me for good quality sleep.
Yeah, I mean, I think there might be a theme here. So like I personally make sure I check off certain boxes with my actual sleep. Like I have one of the I think it's called the Uller from like Chili Sleep or something like that. And it's one of the ones where the water runs through and you can set your temperature and everything. That's been really helpful because I like have that battle of warm, cold throughout the night where you're like covering yourself up and taking the covers off. And I can regulate temperature a lot easier with that. It doesn't really matter whether my, arms and legs are out or in, that sort of thing. So that has been helpful. And all of those pieces that we talked about before, but my day from when I get up until when I exercise, what takes place in that period of time for me dictates how I'm going to sleep, like 100% completely. So what I mean by that, the time that I get up in the morning, if I think probably going back like 3-4 months, maybe even up to 6, if I let myself sleep in, I could. And by sleep in, I mean like I could sleep until like 8 a.m. or something like that. And I started forcing myself to get up between 6 and 7 every day, because it's like, if I'm not tired when I go to bed, like, what are the things that I know that I can do to tire myself out? And one of them is get my ass out of bed and start my day earlier. So now I just wake up on my own at some point between 6 and 7, basically every day. The only thing that sucks is when you get older, if you go to bed late on the weekends, you still wake up between 6 and 7. It's not that fun. You can be that cool dad on vacation that's like, oh, you slept all day. How'd you do it?
Can't wait to be that dad. It's gonna be soon.
Everyone's dad ever. Yeah. Get up at like 6:15. I was awake yesterday. Congrats. Idiot. So there's that. And then a recent change that I've actually made before in the past, but now that I have the science on why, it's a bigger change. So when you wake up in the morning, there's a chemical in your brain called adenosine that is essentially like a sleepiness type hormone. And one of the first jobs that your body has when you wake up is to clear that out, to get rid of it. An antagonist is something that can attach to a receptor and essentially turn off its normal function. Caffeine is a adenosine antagonist. So if I wake up and my mind is trying to clear out that foggy feeling, you wake up and you're like, you can't explain why, like, I feel like, horrendous in bed, and then I take like 14 steps and I feel totally fine. But you can't convince yourself. You got to get your ass out of bed for that to happen. That's that adenosine. That's that foggy feeling that as you start to do whatever, your body gets rid of. If you drink caffeine prior to your body clearing that, it attaches to the receptor and takes over. So you get this jolt of energy, you feel great. As the half-life of caffeine starts to wear off throughout the day, that receptor is taken over by adenosine. So that, whatever it is for you, 11 a.m., noon, 1, 2, 3, that like, oh, what the fuck? What just happened to me? How do I feel this way? Is your body thinks that it just woke up because you have taken over that receptor and said, I'm good to go here. Now, most people clear adenosine between 90 minutes and 2 hours past waking up. I have been working hard to stay away from the caffeine for that period of time, and I'm both happy and incredibly sad to report that it works extremely well. Like, I fucking love coffee. I love the morning routine of it. I like my version of what you're talking about at night takes place in the morning. I come in here. There's typically nobody here.
Tells me to get out.
Tells Sherb to go away. Like having those moments in the morning, and I always associated coffee as part of that. So like, grinding the beans and doing the whole deal, like that to me was part of my morning routine. Now, obviously just moving it to like 8 a.m. or whatever, 8:30 is not that big of a deal. But at first, and I don't even want to, at first and still now, I have to like think about what I'm going to do to distract myself.
Yeah, like how do you fill that void? Do the fucking dishes or something for 2 hours?
Having coffee.
Headstands.
I read, I do my Wim Hof. I do all of the stuff that I would normally do while I'm drinking coffee, and then I drink coffee. So my morning routine is the same.
Water in a mug. Drinks water.
Seriously.
My morning routine is the same sans coffee. The other thing that I started doing, because I don't have to immediately start making coffee, like I told people not to do a little while ago, but I'm not perfect.
I'm human.
Is I go straight to the basement and get on the C2 bike and ride it for 2 to 5 minutes, just as my version of morning movement to get that done. Now, the other piece is like walking, getting sunlight, like your eyes need to see that. And then I have to tire myself out through exercise basically 7 days a week. Like when I do those things, when I get up early and I do the morning movement and I kick my own ass with exercise, I pass out between 9:30 and 10:30 p.m. every single night. Like I am dead to the world.
I definitely
I
have
am done.
I'm like, I got to move 7 days a week. It doesn't need to be CrossFit. It doesn't even need to be like Maffetone. It's like, I need to do something physical 7 days a week or that'll impact my sleep too.
Yep.
So revisiting the morning situation without coffee.
Yep. And again, to clarify, like
you're just delaying when you take, I get it.
Yeah.
But my concern, like I'm willing to try it.
Kill people.
I'm willing to try it.
My concern is I have to keep my gun at home.
Yeah, so I won't eat breakfast until I have coffee. I just can't do breakfast and coffee. It won't happen. But if I wait like 2 hours from when I wake up to eat, I'll be so hungry that I'll probably like pass away. So
I thought you were gonna say pass out, but you
No.
really
Pass
took it.
away.
yeah,
Gone.
no, I'm not even exaggerating. It could
Today we
happen.
remember.
So, I mean, I don't know. Maybe I should just roll out of bed, throw some pants on, and go for my walk before.
Good way to distract yourself.
Yeah.
But then
actually
what
is-
if I what if I can't just
if I
like
can't?
what if I can't relax and like just enjoy the nature because I might not make
Start
it out of
eating
the
pine
trail. I might
Start
not
eating
make
pine
it home.
cones?
I mean, I think you have to test it. Austin and I had a very similar conversation because he gets up at the crack of dawn and does bitch work because he's got to go to work. And he's like, am I going to be okay? Like,
Yeah, his thing too is he's like, what? Well, can I do it without caffeine? I don't think it's the caffeine for me. It's just the coffee,
the
Like, I just-
ritual.
yeah.
Yeah. Yep.
That's what I think it is for me. There's just not, and I know decaf has caffeine in it, but there's not enough good decaffeinated coffee
No,
to like
I
enjoy.
still think it
but
would. There is good enough, but I
That's
don't
it.
think it would work.
right. You,
I think it would still potentially hijack
Mm.
that receptor because I used to do that and I felt great.
I
And-
guess maybe I could just heat up some hot water and pretend.
Put it in a mug.
But
I do. I'm
reporting
This is
back,
delicious.
Austin so far has been good to go with his training. And I told him like him and I were just having like sort of an offhand conversation about it. And he was like, how is this going to be? And I'm like, if it fucks your training up, like, I don't know that it's worth it. And so far,
So far, so good.
he's been like, yeah, my scores are good to go. So not only is it a workout at 6 a.m, which I just don't, that does not compute for me at all.
You just said that you bike for 5 minutes
Oh yeah,
That's training.
That is not.
in your robe, socks off.
Slippers. Ooh, ouch.
That bike seat
Outside.
though. Yeah, that is one thing that I will say I'm excited to happen again is being able to do my morning, that portion, doing
Yeah.
like my burpees and stuff out on the deck.
Mm-hmm.
Like the first few times that you do that, it's a lot better.
So nice.
I'll
Yeah.
report back to everybody on the coffee situation. Hopefully.
If you don't pass away.
If you don't hear from me in 7 days, send flowers.
All right, we are moving on to mindset. The journey is now 2 monumental steps in the right direction with the goals of finding your community and addressing sleep. We now have the support system and hormone optimization. We need to tackle the big bad monster that is stress. Stress comes in many forms, and it truly depends on the individual when diagnosing the forms that we acknowledge and the forms that seem invisible. It's imperative that an overall understanding of how stress works in the body is achieved before a plan is put in place. If your intentional inputs into your stress equation are all forms of stress as well, the body can become overwhelmed regardless of your intentions. The main goal of stress management at the Misfit Project is to continually yield a lower result in the stress equation. Simply put, the stress equation is acknowledge stress minus personalized strategic inputs equals your stress level. We feel that stacking stress management on top of great sleep as the final step of the foundation is the makings of the version of yourself that you know lives in you somewhere. So stress management, I know Sherb has a thing that he does built in here. I know that this is another one where the details of it might not be, as easy to grasp, but I think you can probably start.
Yeah, the suggestion to download Waking Up by Sam Harris, the meditation app, was a suggestion you gave to me 3 4 years ago. It was a while ago. It's a long time ago. And it took a long time to buy in, mostly
That's
because...
a beefy set of years.
Yeah, 3 to 4 double unders, big set. For a long time, mostly because you could see from your perspective that I struggled with some of the headspace stuff, specifically like trying to stay organized and like allowing myself the time necessary to process the thousands of millions of inputs we have every single day and to organize those into the most effective strategy because, you know, around here, I'm probably known as being quite scatterbrained and a little bit of a, you know, I'm a people person. I'm not really a detail oriented type of individual. So I looked at that idea of sitting quietly as like, what the fuck is that going to do? How is that going to help me at all? And because I was so adverse to it and because I thought it was so useless, it took me forever to adopt it. And then after just struggling to not get better organized and to not have that time and to feel like I was just always like on edge or just worrying about what's coming next, kind of like you said, you know, in the morning, if you're worried about like previously, I have to go to the gym so I can go train, or I have to go to work so I can start working in the programming or whatever it was just something that never allowed me to actually relax. I was always worried about what was next as opposed to being present. So at first, this app was very, very distracting. I remember I'm telling you about it's guided meditation. So Sam Harris talks to you about, you know, close your eyes or open your eyes, focus on this, focus on that, breathe in the landscape, breathe out the landscape, kind of things that I thought were, you know, I don't know, ethereal, like this around me, but like, how's that actually going to help? But when you take the time to actually go through it and just try your best to listen along and just follow along, because what's great about meditation is there's really no right or wrong way to do it. The act of sitting for 10 minutes is enough for a lot of people. And most people just don't do that and just sit there and breathe and try to be calm. And over time, that session got easier and easier, and I started noticing that things were more organized and I had less stress. So while there are some days where I still find myself being like, I didn't check the meditation box today, and that can be a stressor, more often than not, I can find 10 minutes of my day to put my headphones in, put them on noise cancellation so I can't hear myself like wheeze or breathe when I'm just sitting here thinking about Doritos. And nice. I'm just able to relax, and it allows me to process both what he is saying to me over my headphones, but also to dive deeper into why my thoughts are disorganized or what I need to get done for the day. So the quiet time that this app has bought me, because a lot of it is quiet time, even though he talks occasionally in it, allows me to relax enough and to get organized in my mind that I've found that I'm a much more productive and happier person because I'm no longer just stressed out because I forgot 17 different things that I was supposed to do in the day. And to date, I think I'm about 1.5 years in using it, and I have somewhere around 20 hours logged in 10-minute segments. So a decent amount of practice put in there. But if you're not someone that's done a meditation app, or you've never tried meditation, or maybe even yoga or something like that, if you need to be in like a pose to like make sure like it feel like it's doing something, that I would strongly suggest that you do it because it's helped me a bunch.
Did you at first find that like it took that, like when you started doing it, that you were still just thoughts running through your
100%.
mind? And how long, like at what point did you notice that like, oh, you're not thinking of all that?
Well, what's nice about the app is that there'll be themes for the day, and he'll talk about things like, hey, it's pretty fucking normal for you to get distracted in the middle of this 10-minute quiet period, and like realize that distraction is just your mind working the way your mind is supposed to. And when you acknowledge the fact that your mind is thinking about something that's not supposed to be thinking about, you're supposed to be like breathing or looking at the surrounding area, that when you are able to like acknowledge that's just one single thing, you can usually take yourself right back out of it with a couple of deep breaths. So like I find myself in the meditation, getting distracted occasionally. And I go, if I do find myself doing that, I'll either open my eyes or close them depending on what I'm currently doing, and focus on just counting my breaths in and out for like 3 to 5 breaths. And next thing I know, I'm back where I need to be. I would say it probably took me 2 or 3 weeks of being in the actual practice, doing it 3 to 4 days a week for 10 minutes at a time before I started acknowledging the fact that like, what's great about meditation is there's no right or wrong way to do it. If you sit quietly for 10 minutes, you are effectively meditating.
I don't know if you remember this part of the intro course, but he has one where he's trying to get you to listen to external sounds, to try and hear certain things. And that was the biggest aha moment that I had, because when they talk about your thoughts are supposed to be like cars driving by and you're just supposed to watch them. One of those things that's sort of easier said than done. And anytime that I meditated prior to taking the intro course, I would get pissed off if there were sounds. Like I'm meditating, it needs to be silent. Like the dog's walking around upstairs. Like where can I hide where it can be perfectly silent? And then he explains that one of the easiest ways to understand what meditation is to hear the sound and then have it disappear and your mind go, where did that go? It's gone. It's not there. So now when I'm meditating, I actually like actively listen for sounds, and it reminds me that like a car drives by or that thing happens that used to like piss me off while I was meditating. That to me is one of the easiest things to say. These things do come and go. They can. It's something that I just observed that is gone. That's not there anymore. And that to me was like, whoa, okay, this is starting to actually make sense. I can start to like think about like, you know, you have like the itch on your cheek while you're meditating and you're trying not to scratch your face, and then your mind goes somewhere else and the itch is gone. And then to me, that's when I would start to able to like really put it together and let thoughts just like, okay, cool, thinking about that, just go away.
Yeah, I think the acknowledgement of things happening and then not reacting is probably the most beneficial thing from all of it. Like, don't get me wrong, the sitting quietly and organizing my thoughts and giving myself time to just basically be bored and think was really helpful. But, you know, a lot of the stuff that I think really I can see happening in the rest of my life is the not reacting immediately to things that happen. You know, people tend to be very reactionary to good things, bad things, whatever, things in the middle. But being able to just let it go by and go, all right, that happened. And then deciding if I want to go make a reaction to it consciously versus just like the, you know, instant reaction. You know, the thing I think about all the time is when Zion was really, really young, the dogs are super excited to get fed in the morning. So we feed them one time a day. First thing, they're outside our bedroom door whining. And then as soon as I get up to feed them, they lose their shit. They're fucking stomping around the house, fighting with each other, like physically running into doors in my house. And my house has like these really cheap doors that are hollow. So it sounds like someone's like serving a warrant. And it used to stress me out so bad. Cause I'm like, you're going to fucking wake up that baby and he's going to have a terrible day. And then my wife and I are going to have a terrible day. And, you know, the thing that I quickly realized is like, and everyone hopefully realizes this too with their pet, is like, they're not doing anything to get a reaction out of you, like trying to get you to be mad. They're just being who they are and, you know, allowing them to do their thing in the morning and not letting it upset you because it's going to wake up your kid. Quickly realize that he wasn't going to get woken up by them. But like having even those moments where you want to react negatively and you just quickly realize like they're just being who they are. And I'm the one attaching this negative emotion to it. They have nothing to do with that, was a really impactful thing for me.
You looked like you were gonna say something about
No, if you want to go, no.
I think for me, stress is there's like two separate boxes, like things that are like realistic stressors that, you know, if anybody else were to look at it, like, sure, if that was me in the situation, I would be stressed too. And then unnecessary stressors. So things that like kind of what you talked about and what you and I have been talking about, things that get to me for no reason at all, and learning to not be so reactive to it, but just looking at the big picture and like, does this really matter like at all? Is this just me being irritated for no reason, and letting that carry over, like something so small carry over from noon in the, like, let's say it's noon to 7 at night when I'm done coaching, like, kind of practicing just like stopping and seeing like, hey, does this actually matter? And like, if I react to it and I'm putting that negative feeling towards this and it ruins the rest of my day, why was it worth it? Like, no, there's nothing good coming out of it. And then on the other side of things, like time management for me has been so huge as far as like stress goes, and making sure that like it's my job. I have the luxury of being able to do it kind of whenever, wherever I want to, but it's also kind of it's a blessing and a curse, because
right. Yeah.
I can, if I need to, wait until the last minute to do something. And then before I know it, it's 9 o'clock at night and I'm taking a bath at midnight and, you know, all that stuff. So I think everything is kind of like streamed into the other. Like, in order to, you know, get enough sleep, I need to make sure that I am managing my time so that I'm not stressed out in the middle of the, in the evening, which then makes it a lot harder to come down before bed, and all that stuff kind of reacts, one from one thing to the next. So it's taken a lot of practice, and I'm still working on time management. But when I am able to come up with a schedule, which is huge, is having a schedule, whether it's like what time I'm doing what in the morning, what time I'm getting to the gym, what time I'm doing these training pieces, what time I'm doing my work, like wherever they stack up on the day. If I have it in a schedule, whether it's just kind of loosely in my mind or written down somewhere, it makes my life so much less stressful. And it's hard to do that because it does, you have to put effort into it. Whereas like, it sounds like it's something so easy to do. We're like, oh, you just figure out what your schedule is and you do it.
Yeah.
But it for me, at least, it's been challenging because it's hard to get out of your mind when you have a day where you're like, oh, this can wait. I just want to sit here and not do that other thing yet. It'll be fine later. And then before you know it, it's 2 a.m.
Not still in the bathtub.
Not really, but yeah, passing out on my laptop.
But it makes sense, right? Because the like I identify with this both on a schedule level and an organizational level. Those two things don't come naturally to me. Therefore, that's why I need them, and that's why they are challenging. So if you're listening to this and you're like, it's hard to write down what you're doing in a day, you're probably one of those people that has like 86 different colored pens and notebooks, and you're like super organized and you get your shit together. Yeah. Like,
see, like in my brain, it's like I have
me.
My brain is a file cabinet that is not organized. You know what I mean? Like there's no tabs. Just everything is just bleeding into each other. So it's just a drawer, a junk drawer. My mind is a junk drawer.
Yeah, my stress management ebbs and flows as far as different techniques that I have to use, but unlike Sherb, I'm definitely more on the introverted spectrum, and because my job puts me around the same people that I would hang out with outside of the gym, I have to not only dedicate time that's outside of the gym, but outside of the gym and not with those people. Because even whether it's because most of my best friends are the people that I coach every day. And when it's like, when they want to hang out, it's like the gym, the gym for them is their sanctuary, their getaway. That's like the de-stressing part of the day. For me, it's the office, and it's not, so it's not a place that I want to necessarily hang out with in my free time. And there's just the association with I don't want to talk about CrossFit. Like outside of the gym today, like I don't want to talk about CrossFit. I don't want to hear anybody's opinion on the workout. I don't want to hear how great or how bad it was. I want to just not talk about CrossFit. And there are times when it's just like, that means that I'm not going to be around other people at all. But one thing that I have worked on a little bit is making sure that I'm not, and again, partially because of how close I live to the gym, it's really easy to find myself there for like 10 plus, usually 10 plus, if not 11 or 12 hours a day. And then sometimes on Saturdays as well. It's just like, I can't wake up, immediately go into that and then do that right up until I go to bed. So I've tried to be better about like in the morning, like not going to do that. I'm not going to get up. I'm not going to take the 9 a.m. class, which is something that I used to do a little bit more and I enjoy doing, but because that means, like, that means I'm at the gym at 8:30, which also means I'm not leaving until 8. It's just like, even though I know it's not I'm not working, like I am at the gym, people are still going to ask me help with coaching related stuff. Like I can't be at the gym and tell people to piss off when they have a question about work or
you
about tell me to piss off all the time.
Yeah, you tell me that too.
Talking to the wrong room of people right now.
Clearly, damn.
You're not a customer. Yeah, well, I would rather. Well, yeah, that's my way of being like, hey, you're over the line, buddy. Like, piss off. So I need to, when I wake up, I'm trying to be better about not getting on a computer, not doing anything that's work related, which also means not going into work until 9:30 or 10 in the morning. I, similar to you, wake up around the same time every day without an alarm, and it's in that like probably closer to like 6:30 to 7:30 time range. But if I get up, I have to give myself like a couple hours to, again, now that I'm like not fasting as much, that also means that I'm eating breakfast, doing like I also do like a couple minutes on my assault bike in the morning to get a little bit of that morning movement in. But
you do it in Dave's bedroom, wake him up
on his bed,
fan
in
next
the
to his
kitchen.
pillow. Assault bike.
Yes.
Morning movement.
That's how they power their apartment.
That's fuck. I wish I could power my apartment with the assault bike. Energy costs up here. So that's probably the biggest thing that I've had to do for my own stress management, because if I don't do that, then I will not work myself to death, but I'll just spend way too much time working. And like I said, if I'm at the gym all the time, then I also don't want to be around the people that I normally would outside of the gym, because those are like, my friends outside of the gym. Like, I don't even want to be around them, because I just associate the gym and the people within it as like, this is a work related sort of thing. And to try to compartmentalize is like a little bit difficult without creating some separation between myself and work, for my own sanity.
Yeah, I mean, you guys are all talking about creating space for yourselves. And if you're going to be a professional athlete or an entrepreneur or someone who really cares about their job, it might not be traditional when you get that moment of time. It might be in the morning. It might be halfway through your day. It might be before bed, but you need that space to be able to do that. And for me, this is like on a like truly like personal level, the most important section of things for me, in terms of what comes naturally, what doesn't come natural to me, what's, sort of part of my biology. And to explain it, not on too much of like a sciencey level, but if you're, one of the things that I found out through some genetic testing, it explains a lot of shit, is the way that my body produces, processes, deals with dopamine is different than, like, it's a genetic mutation. It's different than the norm. And if you're listening to this and you're wondering what that could mean, the sort of symptoms of it would be the ADHD and depression sort of spectrum being in that spot. And then what happens to you that you have to fight is what they call novelty seeking. So like, there's a reason why certain types of people eat too much of a certain food or drink alcohol more than they should, or like, I got to stay away from doom scrolling on Instagram and Twitter and stuff like that. That's another one. Netflix binging. There's all these different things where if you, as a person who doesn't process dopamine or produce it on the same level or in the same way, you are pulled into those things like tenfold compared to the normal person. So for me, I have to identify what those things are and create scenarios where I can sort of get into the mindset that Sherb talked about. And just recently, based on strengths and weaknesses and time of year and my goals, I've been running for 3 hours a week. And the like meditative like feeling that I get from that and the clarity of my thoughts and my mindset is incredible, like completely different. And that does work into tiring myself out, which is something that I have to do. But there's something to that and getting the sunshine and not being able to look at my phone or watch something like I would on the, on the C2 bike or whatever, which is fine. Again, like if I'm, working on longevity and I got to, watch Squid Game or something, it just is what it is. But there's how I feel while I'm doing it and after with the longer runs is remarkable. And it's funny because if I told that to my younger self, just be like,
get out of here.
You can't jog more than a mile. What the hell are you talking about? So I think it takes all different forms and shapes for different people, especially thinking like if you had to exercise for stress relief and you had to stack that on top of the like meaningful exercise that you already have to do to be a professional athlete, that would be a recipe for just more stress, right? So like what these different categories mean to you in terms of stress reduction, I think is super important. Like I'm using the exercise to do that, to put myself into that place, to be able to have some form of meditation. Because as someone with that type of brain, you sit me alone in a seat too much and you're going to get the wrong result. So being able to still make it physical is something I think that's super important for me, and I think could resonate with other people.
I feel like what you described is something that I feel a lot, like every day, and I haven't really been able to kind of explain it, but it makes a lot of sense. So like since I've been doing the Maffetone stuff and more so like being able to get outside and do it.
Yeah.
I just like thinking as I'm running, like one, it's so easy to just run for 45 minutes to an hour now. But I feel like I'm almost like transported to a different place.
Yeah.
Like where it just feels so much easier to not think and like kind of like get away from everything else.
Yeah.
And that sort of stress relief it's a different sort of stress relief than doing a Metcon in the gym. Because like, yes, there's a purpose for all the stuff that I do inside of the gym, but it feels completely different doing like the Maffetone work where you're not worrying about how fast you're going and you're just kind of going. And I had that thought today when I was out there, like it's just, it feels so good when I'm done every single time, just like a easy 45 minutes to where you're just kind of going to a separate world.
I think the biggest change from Maffetone as opposed to like your day-to-day training is that it is so highly personal, and it's a really easy thing to use as like a very personal training element as opposed to like a Metcon where all of you are using the same assault bike and the same pair of dumbbells. You're all racing the same amount of time. And while you might be working on different things, it's really easy to get caught up in the race of like who's going to get the best score. Whereas Maffetone is just like, I have to run at this heart rate. And unfortunately, that's sort of out of my control to an extent based upon my physiology and my prior like exercise experience. So I can go out there and not have this like thing looming over the top of me. Like I have to, put up this crazy score on Maffetone because it's just like you're running at your heart rate, and that's what it is. So to be able to like sort of separate the idea of like, this is going to make me a better competitive athlete, but isn't something I have to directly compare to my contemporaries, I think makes Maffetone a really nice change in your training stimulus as opposed to, again, the grind of like being inside the four walls of the gym.
True. Ted, where are we at on time over there? Okay, so we are anywhere from, 50 to 100% longer than a normal podcast. But I think it's a really good idea to make this part one of a part two, because when we go into part two, we're going to be talking about fuel, movement, and personalization, which for CrossFitters is a bit more of that sort of wheelhouse natural place. And I think we can come at it from an angle where people maybe think about things from a different perspective. But it's probably going to take another hour and 40 minutes to go through those three topics. So if you're willing to join us for a part two, I think that's a pretty good spot. Any final thoughts? Anybody?
I'm excited for part two.
Cool.
Oh, man, I had something to say about Sure, but I forgot.
So that I'm sweating wearing a gray t-shirt.
No, I think it was about you being an antagonist for everyone.
I am an antagonist. I'm definitely not a protagonist.
Just attaches yourself to everybody and ruins it.
That's right.
Goddamn menace to society.
Snail. Don't salt me.
Just kidding. Sure was great.
You got anywhere?
I got no wisdom.
You got no wisdom?
I got no wisdom.
Got no wisdom?
It's hot dog season.
It's hot dog season, baby. Let's go.
That's the
Next
big
on
theme.
part two, we'll bring in red snappers.
Yeah, we got to
Should
show
we eat
them.
hot dogs?
What's that?
Can we eat hot dogs during the next one?
Ted
we
will
have
be
to.
very upset. Ted's going to mute all. Yeah, Ted will mute all of the microphones.
Ted's gonna be the fifth guest.
Ted
Well,
can
yeah, that's
practice.
true.
Yeah.
That's true.
Ain't nobody eating hot dogs without Ted around here.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for tuning into another episode of the Misfit Podcast, and thank you to our show sponsors. You can head to properfuel.co, use the code word Misfit to save 10% on any and all orders. Sharpentheaxeco.com. Make sure you are looking out for the Misfit Athletics semifinals collection. We got some really good stuff coming out there. Use the code word Keala, Keala. You save 10%. We donate 10% to the Keala Foundation. And if you want to follow the same programming as Caroline, you can head to Misfit Athletics or the SugarWOD Marketplace and try it for 2 weeks for free. And if you want to follow the program that the Goon Squad is attacking on a weekly basis, make sure you let your affiliate owner know to head to teammisfit.com or the SugarWOD Marketplace to try it for free as well. See you next week.